everybody's favorite segment from 0 to 100. Hello, guys. Since we're doing a tier list for the Dark Souls, Sekiro. Okay, we're not going to include Sekiro in this because I haven't played it, and I've played it, I've given up, I didn't like it, or not really didn't like it, but anyway, everybody, we have our hot takes going. Chat is live again. They can see you on the screen. Everybody say hi. Say hi to YouTube chat, we're here. And as I get this set up, why don't you guys get your hot takes that you have ready to go out into the world, because I have to find a tier list. All right, everybody, they are going to exclude 2 games from this. Can I type in? Or actually, no. We gotta come up with some funnier names for these tier lists. All right. I have a feeling I'm going to upset some people with this one. Mostly people in my chat. I wish I could put Lies of P on this, actually, too. Because Lies of P is fantastic, and I'm getting ready to go play it. But, what do we have for this? Oh boy, Excalibur dropped a big one. And it's a part 1 of 2. This'll be good. S tier, Jak and Daxter. A tier is a solid Destiny 2. B tier, this will be this is just completely fine game. Actually, no, I know. Completely middle of the road. Oh wait, no, this is B tier. Whoops, never mind. I forgot, this is B tier. This is C tier. Boom. Destiny 2. Boom. Gotta maintain my stuff. I can tell you're a PlayStation child. Yes, I was. I would actually. Ooh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna change this because I like this one. Hades. Alright, I will explain the tier rankings in a second. Let's see Excalibur's case for Dark Souls 2. So, I do personally think the bosses are definitely the weakest parts of the game. It feels like half the bosses were less about having a good and interesting, or good/interesting mechanics, and more about having a big boss and a couple of goons. Add on to the fact that some of the bosses get repeated, like Dragon Rider, and in some cases they just copy bosses from Dark Souls 1, like the Totally Not Ornstein, and add on that rolling is much easier, and the amount of life gems allow the player to play a bit more reckless compared to the limited Estus, which probably caused a lot of people to believe Dark Souls 2 is just watered down Dark Souls 1. An interesting and probably fair assessment, especially as far as the bosses go. It's interesting that you say that rolling is easier in this game, because is it because when you're locked on you can actually roll in every single direction and not just the 1, 2, 3, 4 of the original? And overhyping, my confession is that I haven't seen most Disney movies. Name a Disney movie and there's a 90% chance I haven't seen it. Please, for the love of God, tell me that you have seen Treasure Planet. But that is an interesting assessment from you, Excalibur, because I need to know. You haven't?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Once this is over, you need to go watch Treasure Planet. It is one of Disney's best movies they've ever put out. Go watch. It's amazing. I mean, how it works. In Dark Souls 2, it's just a stat boost. In Dark Souls 1, you have to think a bit more about it with your armor stats. Well, so that's not entirely true, I would say. Nobody saw Treasure Planet because Disney sabotaged it. It's not an actual conspiracy theory. Get that tinfoil out of here. It's not a conspiracy. Disney sabotaged it because the directors have been trying to make it for so long. I will find the video and link it for everybody to watch the story of Treasure Planet, because the video actually explains it so much better than I do. Everybody needs to go watch Treasure Planet because it's amazing. And we almost got a sequel. But As far as how it goes, with the stat boost, I don't think it's lesser because it's a stat boost. You have to, if anything, I feel like it's another way to make you consider what you're wearing, or not what you're wearing, what you're doing with your stats, because now you have another option going through. Like, you could go hard on armor again, to make, and like poise, to make yourself more tanky. Or you could invest stats into making yourself more agile and move around faster. I don't think it's overall easier to work with because you still have to consider what you're doing. Like, you can make that's what all of the stats in these games are, is, do I want the easy mode? Well, if I do, whatever the health stat is, and just dump points into that is the easy mode in these games. Or, do I want to be attacking? Endurance, and whatever damage stat you have. Like, that's kind of how it goes in all these games. Now that we're here, for a second, I will explain the tier list as we have them. In S tier, we have the Jak and Daxter tier. This is the pinnacle of the FromSoft games that they've put out. The FromSoft Souls genre, Soulsborne Die Twice genre that we have here. Hades is just a step down below in A tier. These are really good. There's just like one or two little things that I didn't like it. No, stinky. Then down in B tier, these are solid experience. There's some funky. There's some funky there, and it's a lot, but overall solid experience. Then down in C tier, this is also it's a solid experience, but it's like, meh. Yeah, I didn't vibe with it really. It wasn't clicking. It was something off. I stuck it out kind of, but it wasn't because I wanted to keep playing and the game got me in. It was more because alright, I gotta do this. Obligation type deal. And then Last of Us Part 1 down here is just you don't want to be in this tier. You don't want to be down there. It's bad. It's no. So, for this as well, we will not be putting Demon Souls in any of these categories because I have not played Demon Souls yet. I will also not be putting Dark Souls 2 in here because I did not play the base Dark Souls 2. I played Scholar of the First Sin, so those will not be ranked. Sekiro, I never got through all the way. I played a little bit, but I will not be putting it as a ranking up here. We'll get right in to the rankings. We'll start from the bottom and make our way to the top. So, our most bottom placement, and this might ruffle some feathers, our most bottom placement coming right in Destiny 2 is Dark Souls. What? This is probably the better version to play since Blighttown functions, but Dark Souls 1 goes in Destiny 2 category. It is a solid game through and through, has some of those first game, well, okay, technically second game hiccups, where the first half I really enjoy. I'll actually, no, I won't dissect this up like how everybody says, because that's not how I feel. I don't think there's as big of a difference in quality from the first half to the second half. I don't think that's really the issue. Where I find the issues lying with this game, they're more in first off, in some of the controls. I don't know what possessed them or what the choice was behind this, but making it so you don't have omnidirectional rolling when locked on, versus when you're locked on, you only can roll in forward, back, right, or left. That stinky choice, that's kind of, what the hell? What just happened? But yeah, Dark Souls 1 has those growing pains, but I feel it more in mostly the controls, and then the runbacks. Zero excuse for the runbacks being the way they are, because you had it should not have taken. This is going to be something that actually knocks down every single Souls game except Elden Ring, because there is no excuse for why there are runbacks existing in these games when it is very, very simple to just put a bonfire next to the boss room. Zero excuse. The only game that gets a pass on this is Demon Souls, because it was the very first. So that is where I stand for that. Dark Souls 1 is very fun. The bosses are all really fun to get to. Ornstein and Smo is amazing. The build up to that first half and the reward for being able to fast travel is nice, though I think it would have been better if they let us fast travel to every single area, because it's a little annoying to, like, the reward for getting fast travel after overcoming Ornstein and Smo. Great choice. Love it. Only giving us a few bonfires to go to. It's a stinky choice, because it feels less like I actually got a reward for it, and it feels more like another complication. Like, that feels like they are trying to force me to walk through the level after giving me access to being able to jump around to them. So, like, I have no problem with walking through a level and getting through to places. My problem comes in the fact that you give me ease of access, quality of life choice, and then you don't go all the way with it. And that I have a problem with. Dark Souls 1, Destiny 2. Going forward now, the next placement. And this, probably going to ruffle the feathers even more. Above Dark Souls 1 is Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin.
Boy, if you don't...
I enjoyed my time with this game a lot. I didn't mind the bosses as much. I do think there were a lot of them, and some of them that could have just been relegated to, like, points of interest. Like the Skeleton Lords one was, like, it was just a bunch of enemies that I had to get through, and, like, it's cool in some instances when, like, you know, you can summon for the multi-boss fights. Like, that's where I think it's cool, and you can summon to make it more like, oh, we're having a battle and all these NPCs that I'm working with, like, I can bring you guys in to fight with me, and that's really cool, and I enjoyed that. But I think there were just a bit too many. But that said, as well, what I really liked about this game for its boss fights was that some of them encouraged, like, there was a lot more environmental play going on with them, where, like, the Medusa boss fight, I forget her name, but the Medusa boss fight, where it was an arena completely covered in poison, but if you actually look around at the level and figure things out, you can stop the poison from being pumped around, and then that clears it out from the boss arena, so it's no longer completely cancerous to fight. Or, well, at least not completely cancerous, but so you're not juggling poison going through, and it also affects the rest of the level, where it makes it so much easier to backtrack and collect everything. And then the Dragon Rider, which I think actually the first Dragon Rider up at Hyde's Tower of Flame, if I did the game in order, because I kind of went all over the place, which I did appreciate that. This game didn't handhold me into whichever area I couldn't go. I think that's a big part of these games, is that while they're linear experiences, they're not, like, super linear. Like, they're not original God of War trilogy linear, where it's straight up, there's no room to explore, really, it's just go. And that works for those games. They're doing their own thing. But these games have always had an identity of being able to explore at your leisure and pick a path, and the game will subtly tell you, you know, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here at this point, but I can also just kind of brute force my way through if I'm good enough, and that's what we appreciate about these games. Adaptability, as I've gone over before, not a problem. I had zero issue with it, even at base level adaptability with my class. Not a problem. I didn't feel the need that I had to prioritize that stat over any other. Like, I don't feel the need to do that in any of them. Hollowing as a mechanic, while in Dark Souls 1, hollowing didn't affect your health in that way, I found that I didn't mind it that much because I also wasn't dying that much. So maybe this is just something specific to me. I wasn't dying that much, and part of it, I think, is because I've just gotten better at these games as I've played all of them, and they're all very different. Like, I died, I think, very few times in Dark Souls 1 compared to some of the other ones. So, like, it's the same amount for me. Life gems, fantastic. Love life gems. I like that we were given two different options for healing, where if I wanted to keep a more agile playstyle, I could stick to life gems because I can move around as I'm going, but if I wanted to get a full health back, like a bigger chunk of health back, I would drink the Estus, and to do that, I'd have to sit down, go completely stationary. It felt like neither option was better than the other. They were just two different options, and one of them fit my playstyle a bit better. Like, it's the same thing with Elden Ring. And Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, I vastly prefer being able to move when I heal. That is just my playstyle. So if there's any option that gives me the ability to heal while moving in any game, I'm going to take that over any other bigger chunk. That is just how I play. And this game giving me that option, great, loved it. But I think that'll end it. For Dark Souls 2, as far as my thoughts go for there, I really liked a lot of these vistas that they had. Some of it connecting to each other, yeah, I can see how it would be jarring. It was kind of jarring to find the old Iron Keep after going from the poison place. That was probably the only jarring thing in the game. But other than that, I think the places that they had were very beautiful and very, very unique, which was nice. There was a lot more color going on in this one compared to Dark Souls, which I personally appreciated. I'm not saying it's better, it's just what I appreciated. And now, moving on to Hades category, Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 gets it in the Hades category. I loved so much about that game. It basically fixed all of the issues that I had from Dark Souls 1 when I played it. My play order was completely whack. I'll explain what my play order was for all these games for anybody who missed my streams. But I really liked Dark Souls 3. There was a lot of cool additions going on with the weapon abilities that were given. There's the specific ones for each of them. There was a lot that was nicely streamlined in a way that didn't lose the identity of the series, but in a way that just made it less of a headache for the player. That was also when they added magic, which I think, if I played with magic, I could have thoughts on that, but I did not play with magic, so I cannot speak to that. But overall, I think this game has a really, really tight selection of boss fights where it really shines there. Some of the levels can be a little stinky, mainly the poison swamps, but that's in all of them because Miyazaki is a masochist and just loves to put poison swamps in places. Literally look it up. He's just I just like putting poison swamps. And that's why we have so many of them. But there's a lot of good variety for weapons in Dark Souls 3 that I enjoyed. It was the first one where I swapped around so many times in my weapons for whatever scenario I wanted to. I used the Zweihander, the short sword, and the twin swords for most of it, which was very fun. I did not stick to the katana like I normally do. I was build variety. But yeah, a lot of the boss fights, this game, Vort was crazy. I loved that boss fight. Gale, even if he took my lunch money for a spin. Oh wait, that's DLC, not base game. Soul of Cinder and Pontiff Sullivan, very cool boss fights. I really like the princes, and I think this was a good ending for Dark Souls as a whole. I like the story focus that Dark Souls 2 had on memory and the kingdom. It was very interesting in a different direction to go for it, and the kingdom with Vendrick is very cool. Drangleic has a very interesting identity, but Dark Souls 3 kind of tying up all the threads of the Lands of Lordran. Very cool to bring us end to the cycle for fire as well. So, Dark Souls 3, I had a great time with it. It was very fun. It dealt with a lot of the issues that both games, Dark Souls 1 and 2, had in terms of it was the most fluid Dark Souls that I had played. It was very fluid. There was some jank in both Dark Souls 1 and 2, and I think while I do appreciate Dark Souls 2 for solving the backstab gimmick in Dark Souls 1, because it was really easy to just spam backstabs. And Dark Souls 2 kind of fixed that with the animation being something that you had to like line up a bit better. And it's not a guaranteed thing. It's a risk, which I appreciated. I think they solved it in Dark Souls 3 perfectly, where it was a risk, but they fine-tuned the window for the risk. So you wouldn't be as left open as Dark Souls 2 left you if you missed it. So that is where I stand for Dark Souls 2. And now, moving on to the next one, Elden Ring. Elden Ring is and it was my first Dark Souls FromSoft game that I completed. The first one I actually played was Dark Souls 3, but I didn't get very far in it. And I basically didn't remember any of it when I started. But Elden Ring, fantastic across the board. I really loved how they did open world design in this game. It was very unique because it kept true to the core of what I think these Souls games, at least the Souls genre itself, is. And it is what I like to affectionately call fuck around and find out game design. And that is a very, very nice way to go for a world like this when you're going for open world and you want the player to experience all of it, because you guide them with points of interest as well going through. Like, all these games do that with their level designs. They guide you through points of interest. Like, okay, I need to get up there. I see a tower. I see a castle. I gotta get inside the castle. Like, here's the biggest like hallway for the castle. Clearly, I gotta get in there first. And they do a really good job of it. Elden Ring is the one that did it the best, where you see something off in the distance and you're like, okay, I want to go there. And if it's an area you're not supposed to be at that point, it's even clearer in there. I mean, Caelid is like the perfect example of showing like, yeah, I want to explore around. And you ride up to Caelid, and then all of a sudden, the sky turns red, the words pop up on screen, the music changes, and you just kind of stand there and you're like, oh, I'm in hell. Of course, if that didn't turn you off, the giant puppy that will tear you limb from limb will definitely do that.
Hey, how y'all? Get your fucking dog, bitch! It don't bite. Yes, it do!
But across the board, what I really liked about Elden Ring was how much it learned from every single entry in its past, where, finally, we don't have stupid-ass runbacks that exist for no reason. If we die at the boss fight, we can just respawn at the boss fight. It's so lovely. It's beautiful. There's no reason for burnbacks. There never was. And so you can just spawn right there and fight them. The build variety in this game is kind of crazy, and there's a lot more accessibility in terms of getting across things. Like, one thing, as I said, I really loved about Dark Souls 2 was the people you could summon to bring in. And it felt like you were fighting with a squad across the world. That was a very nice feeling. Elden Ring takes this a step further, where you can also do that with NPCs, but you can summon your own little fighters to go through there. And so you control how difficult your experience truly is in Elden Ring. Because if a certain area of the game is giving you trouble, you can just walk over to the next area, farm some runes, kill some bosses there, and then come back, get as you're stronger, and go mollywop the boss's ass, because now you have a health bar the size of Texas and a giant-ass sword that can take theirs down. So it's a very, very, very good way to have the player build their own difficulty without making it seem obvious. But yeah, Elden Ring had a great run. The open world design was amazing. It was very Breath of the Wild-esque, but surprisingly, where I really liked Elden Ring, and I didn't vibe with Tears of the Kingdom, they do roughly the same things in here because there's so much going on. Like, Elden Ring has where Tears of the Kingdom has the sky map, Elden Ring also has the underground. But the difference between what was going on with Elden Ring and Tears of the Kingdom was that going through, there was very rarely any long cutscenes to kind of reward me in certain ways. Like, getting the map in Elden Ring is as simple as walking over to a map stone and then just picking up the map, and now I know exactly where I'm going in a certain section, and it's lovely. My only thing to cut down on Elden Ring is some of the bosses can be a little much. What? Huh! Sometimes. Not Melania. Melania was fine. More in terms of like some of the combos they can do where they would just go on forever. I have no issue with like bosses doing like get off me moves in certain instances to kind of humble the player and keep them in check, because it adds another dimension to the fight of like, oh, these guys are also thinking and considering. And I do think there's also a certain amount, too much certain amount of input readings in Elden Ring. And I don't like input readings. And that is mainly what holds it back from being placed up in the coveted Jak and Daxter tier list, which the placement for Jak and Daxter tier is Bloodborne. Bloodborne is absolutely my favorite of From Software's outings, and it is in large part due to the gun parry. The gun parry is such a genius idea, and this is the game that I think truly solved all of the like combat problems that the Dark Souls games had at that point. The backstabs, the way parry, like the exploitability of parrying in Dark Souls 1 and in Dark Souls 3 to an extent, this is the game that perfected it. The health system, combat, the way bosses work, it was all perfect. The rally system is amazing. The gun parry, as I said, perfect. Trick weapons are really fun to kind of solve the build problem a little bit, because you can have so much more variety with the trick weapons that you're going through. And they also finally ditched the armor stats really for Bloodborne, and so they just made it completely about the fashion, which was absolutely lovely. There's also no weight system in there, because the entire game is geared around a combat system that is fast and in the moment, and because that, ties in with the rally system of getting your health back as soon as you take a hit. It's lovely. It's beautiful. The only thing that ties it back from being number one in my eyes is, and this is something through all of the Souls games, I love vagueness. I love the vagueness they have. It makes me want to look through and figure out how a lot of this stuff works. I despise the fact that they do not tell me what quantity I get from the souls that you consume, the runes that you consume in Elden Ring, and the blood echoes stuff. I hate that these games do not tell us that. I hate that, because this is a consumable that I'm trying to think about. So tell me what the stats are for it. Tell me. That is the only thing I want to be told about in these games. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. But Bloodborne, across the board, fantastic, perfect. It is FromSoft's. I would put it as it's FromSoft's perfect game. And now, finally, for the number one slot, it is Lies of P. Pretend it's there, guys. Boom. Lies of P is the best Souls genre game I have ever played. It actually takes every single thing from the games that have come before. It takes the approach to the story. Lies of P does this with Pinocchio and introduces a very, very cool concept of how they approach lying in the game and the quest system. It's very intriguing, and to tie in with, a puppet or a real boy, they tie so many things in for it, and it's amazing. And then the combat. Ooh, that combat is so good, because it takes all of the perfect things from each of these games and melds it into a even more perfect, think of the most perfect thing you can in your head. You take that and then you just somehow make it better and more perfect, like it was made by God or something. And that is how I get the combat of Lies of P, because it takes the rally system mechanic from Bloodborne, mixes it with the Sekiro combat system of parrying and blocking with an endurance bar adds a dash of weapon durability to kind of mix things up and make it a bit more tense. You actually have to keep track of your weapon durability because your weapon can break, but at the same time, you can also break other enemies' weapons. You also have the prosthetic that you could switch out with like 6 different things, like the prosthetic from Sekiro. You have an interesting take on the fatal attack, or on the visceral attacks from Bloodborne, with backstabs as well. There's the parrying is not exploited as well. They also figured out healing in a very interesting way, where instead of consumables that you find or Estus shards that you find to like build them up, you have it through a very unique skill tree system that actually allows you to customize even more of your playstyle, and you can go back and rework it whenever you want if you want to change up your playstyle. It takes the trick weapon system as well from Bloodborne and mixes it into a whole new thing where you can mix and match blade and handle types and like what kind of moveset you have with whatever build you want to have. It's so good, it's so cool. I love it. The bosses are like insane. Every single boss can be parryable. There are some grabs that you have to dodge, and that's perfectly fine, but you can parry every single thing. It's amazing. I love it so much. I could go on and on about Lies of P, but this is where I stand with my tier list for everyone. This is probably how hot my takes are going to get. Up in the top tier scale, we have Lies of P, the Jak and Daxter scale leading the pack. Bloodborne as FromSoft's masterpiece that they have made. Down in the Hades category of tier list, we have Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3. They're very good at what they do, and they're just shy of being perfect. And then, in our middling of the pack tier, Destiny 2, we have Dark Souls 2 leading Dark Souls out of the fog and into the games. And they're both good games. They're both solid. They just have a little bit of issues that I didn't vibe with, and I saw fit to put them down there. I still would absolutely love to play these games. Anytime, I would go back and do it. But that is where we ended off. Nobody was relegated down into the Last of Us 2 or Last of Us 1 tier list because they didn't get down that far. I didn't feel like I was obligated to finish these games. I actually wanted to finish. This was a very, very productive time of From 0 to 100. Thank you all for coming in for this. We finished Dark Souls 2 today, and we ranked them all. It was a very good time. This is probably my hottest take because I put Dark Souls 1 at the bottom of the tier list. But it's where I want it. I would love to hear if you have any other thoughts about the games and where you would place them. And you can put them down in the comments when I get this video out on my channel. I think this would be a fun one to put out there. It'll go on the Zero to Hero Productions channel, on my legit one, where I talk about things. It's going to be like a different form, but that is where we will be. And thank you all for coming in. I will see you guys next time. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all of the good YouTuber stuff. Bye.